The night was thick with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that felt like it was watching. Omeiza sat outside his father's hut, staring at the moon. The elders' voices still echoed in his head, their laughter mocking his words. "Why must we treat our women like this?" he had asked them. "Because that is our way," they answered.
Hey besties, if you're new here, please kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on notification bell so you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.
But he could not accept it. No, he would not accept it. So when his father, the king, looked at him and said, "If you think the world is different, beyond our borders, go and see for yourself," Omeiza took this as a challenge. At dawn, he left Gadumo, taking with him 3 maidens who refused to live under the rule of men, and 2 warriors, Jatau and Ede, who believed in his dream. They had food for a few months, weapons they barely knew how to use, and Omeiza's greatest gift, his voice. He thought the journey would be easy, but he was wrong. The forest was nothing like home. By the 2nd month, their food had run out. The rivers were dangerous, the fruits bitter. The nights belonged to the whispering trees. Jatau, the older guard, could hunt. He set traps, tracked animals, and brought back food. But after every kill, he would pause, staring at the lifeless eyes of the animals. "They are watching us," he said one evening, skinning a hare. Omeiza laughed. "You are letting the night play tricks on you." But that night, the first whisper came. It was not a voice, not an animal, just a long, dry sound that slid through the trees like a serpent. Ede gripped his spear tighter. "We are not alone." They thought it was fear speaking. Until the next night, Jatau went hunting. He never returned. They searched for him at dawn. His footprints circled the same tree over and over, but he was gone. The whisper came again that night, this time closer. By morning, Ede was gone too. Fear settled in their bones, but turning back was not an option. One of the maidens, Alero, fell sick. The forest air seemed to drain her life away. They buried her beneath the twisted tree, marking her grave with stones. That night, as they sat around the dwindling fire, Omeiza stood and said, "If we cannot find a new land, we will build one." And so they did. They crafted shelters from falling trees, carved spears from sharp stones. The 2 remaining maidens became the first mothers of a new land, and Omeiza, the boy who had left in search of a better world, became king. But something was watching. Back in Gadumo, time had not stood still. The king, Omeiza's father, grew old. His once iron grip on the village turned fair. The council searched for an heir, but there was none. Omeiza was gone. One day, the king stood before his people and declared, "I am the last." That night, he walked alone to the sacred river where kings were blessed before their rule. But there was no one to bless him now. They found his body the next morning, floating in the river, his crown still clenched in his hands. Gadumo has lost his king, and without an heir, the village fell into chaos. Then, one day, Ede returned. His body was lean, his eyes darker than before. He walked into the village like a man who had seen things no human should see. The people gathered around him, whispering his name in shock. The council of elders pulled him aside. "Where have you been?" Ede knelt before them. "I have found him." The crowd gasped. "Where?" the elders asked. Ede looked up, his voice steady. Beyond the whispering trees, where the lost ones become kings. A search party was formed. They followed Ede deep into the forest, past where Jatau had disappeared, past the twisted tree where Alero was buried. Then at the edge of the land where the tree thinned, they saw it. A village, houses built from wood and stones, smoke rising from cooking fires, children laughing, and at the corner of it all, Omeiza. He stood tall, his skin darker from the sun, his body stronger. By his side stood a woman, one of the maidens who had followed him, her belly round with child. The lost prince had built his own kingdom, but would he return to Gadumo? Would he take back the throne his father had left behind? As the search party stepped forward, Omeiza raised his hand to stop them. His voice was deep, steady, full of something they had never heard before. "I did not leave Gadumo," he said. "I escaped it." And with that, he turned his back on them, walking into the village he had built. The search party returned home with their answer. There would be no king in Gadumo. The village that once ruled with iron fists would now crumble under its own weight. And somewhere beyond the whispering trees, the lost prince ruled a land of his own.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell, comment "I want part 2" so I'll tell you what Idowu did in the story.